Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. Quite a visual change, I know. Thankfully, the upcoming Cynic episode will still feature the beard since I recorded it before. But let's. I got three questions. Question number one: What? I'm just gonna rephrase that because it's a long question just for brevity. What is gluten intolerance and what must they avoid? And that kind of ties in with celiac. Gluten intolerance is presumably the intolerance to a protein called gluten that's found in barley, rye, oats, wheat, and spelt. So you can think of the word browse without the e at the end for short. A lot of people mix that up, and a lot of people claim to have it, and then I can't have glutinous rice. Rice has gluten. No, it actually has gluten. It's a totally different thing. You can have rice. You can have corn. You can have quinoa. You can have that's actually about it in terms of carbs. Oh, potatoes, stuff like that. That being said, there's been a little bit of new research that suggests that it's not gluten necessarily. That the celiac disease, which is a gastrointestinal disease characterized by inflammation in response to certain foods, notably foods that contain gluten, some people think that it might actually be a glyphosate sensitivity, and that does kind of make sense because you hear people joke about that they'd never heard of this until recently. Well, the plants, the staple crops, which is what affects people with these sensitivities, the manner in which they're grown has changed tremendously. There's a lot of pesticides being in use. There's a lot of other compounds being in use. The manner in which they're grown is different, and the ratio, this kind of goes hand in hand with the macro talk that I had last time. The ratio with which these staples comprise a person's diet has also changed. People eat a lot more carbohydrates from these staples, and so when you combine all those things, yeah, I can absolutely see that being the cause rather than gluten itself. That being said, those are the 5 plants. Let's see, BROWS, 5 plants that are to be avoided if someone has such a sensitivity, if it's genuine, because it's not as big a deal as it used to be. Like a couple years ago, I swear, that's all you ever heard. Now it's all about paleo and keto. Next question. Hang on. Let me pause the vid to read that one because that one's hard to decipher. What are prions? I shortened it again. I've got paragraph questions today for some reason. What are prions? Okay. Well, let's first look at what prions aren't. Sometimes that's more handy than thinking about what something is. Living things are comprised of cells. Prions are not comprised of cells, so they're not living things. And then simpler than living things, you have viruses. Viruses are comprised of a protein coat, and then within that coat is DNA. Prions are simpler than that. Prions are simply misfolded proteins. So these misfolded proteins, when they come in contact with other cellular material, they cause those proteins to misfold. It's this weird. To call it contagious, I think would kind of be an erroneous statement. It's more like knocking over dominoes. If a domino 5 feet away from another domino causes another one to fall by virtue of knocking the ones between those two over, it's not really that it's catching anything. It's just sort of a cause and effect. Prions are misaligned proteins that cause other proteins to misalign, and it just keeps going from there, and it's horrible. It usually tends to affect the cerebrospinal organs, in other words, your brain, really, your brain and spine, and so it causes horrible effects. The most famous example of a prion would be mad cow disease. And then there's another one, I might be mixing it up, calling it Jacob Crutchfield disease, because I know there's a similar sounding disease that has nothing to do with prions, but I think that's what the other one's called, and that's caused by eating, for example, squirrel brains. And so mad cows eating other cows getting their brain tissue in their systems caused that, and then people would eat that, and then they would have the similar symptoms where holes would form in their brain. That's why it's called bovine spongiform encephalopathy, because it puts holes in your brain because the proteins are folding and collapsing in on themselves. And let's see, what's the other one? Oh, cannibals prion, which that's really the rule of thumb with prions. Like, don't eat brains of things that eat brains of their same species. So don't eat people brains. Don't eat squirrel brains, which, although that's like 1 in a 10,000 chance. So, I mean, if you really like squirrel brains, go for it. Don't eat the cerebrospinal fluid of deer, because that's the new one right now that everybody's talking about. The media's drumming it up like they did with killer bees. You know, the wasting deer disease. And then, of course, mad cow. Those are the big. Don't eat cows from Britain, guys. I hope they've got that under control. I haven't checked. It's been a long time since they had that as a problem, but still. I think that's still a thing. Like, if you go through U.S. Customs after you go to Britain, like, that's one of the questions they ask you. Like, did you have a steak while you were in Birmingham, sir? So, you know. Let's see. Third question. I'll pause it again, because, again, paragraph question. Okay, I figured it out. What is the biggest spider? Again, I don't... Brevity is the soul of wit, everyone. What is the biggest spider? And that depends on who you ask. If you're going by mass, it's the Theraphosa blondie, the Goliath bird eater, and it's a close second to that one in terms of mass is the Theraphosa sturmii. Like, they're not that different. Kind of want one, but they're so expensive, and also kind of hard to take care of. Actually, like they love it, like really moist environments and mold. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, it's maybe someday. Anyway, getting away from the topic. Additionally, if you're going by mass, like I said, it's the Theraphosa. If you're going by like leg span, it's the giant huntsman, Heteropoda maxima. And I don't know anybody who owns those. I know you can get like the Heteropoda David Bowie. Yeah, like, he's named after it because it's really trippy looking. It's like a very David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars kind of animal. But yeah, okay, short one today. All right, 7 minutes 30 seconds. See you guys. Like and subscribe. Bye.